Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work at Connect, an epiphany, a mind explosion, a new author to explore, a new book to read, all the ways you can help me keep going is in the bottom of the description. And artwork, I got this beauty out of the mold, a lot of aluminum there. Posters, sparkly. I'm trying to do different colors, solids, card holders. Gems. You see all those protective pyramids on the floor? And all the other pyramids? And hearts. I'm putting color behind them. Trying new things, exploring new options, trying to get creative. I'm also painting a lot upstairs. That's just some of my older work, but all up for grabs. And all that information is on AllyKatzkreations211.com. The link should be somewhere up there in YouTube land. And if you're interested in something, you want me to customize something for you, please email me. Drawings are going to get tight once I start the job in August. So if you need a drawing done, get it in now. And that's relatively cheap. Personal survival. Getting off the rant high the other day with the message of Aquaria, I just started book 2 of Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, and this chapter is a message from Madame Blavatsky. So whether they're doing a seance or channeling her, I am super curious to know what this says. And once again, you don't need to align with Blavatsky. I don't align with a lot of her work, but there's a lot that I do. Please go within to know what's right for you. I am stressing this because upstairs is stressing it. As we're all from different paradigms, even though we're all one, we're all individuated and we all come from different rays and sparks from God, source. Coffee, I had a long morning. I need some boost. So this is from Personal Survival, a message from Madame Blavatsky, transcribed by Dr. and Mrs. F. Homer Curtis, founders of the Universal Religious Fellowship Incorporated, authors of the Curtis books. The many messages from Madame Blavatsky given to the authors in her own handwriting and over her own identified signature as reproduced in this volume should be sufficient evidence of the close contact the authors have had with her through many years. These messages should be sufficient evidence, too, of the authenticity of the following message dictated to Mrs. Harriette Curtis by Madame Blavatsky, October 16th, 1928. Oh, October 16th is Viking's birthday. This message was given to the transcribers some time ago from a special purpose, but the author of the message now directs them to make it public, and they herewith comply with the instruction that the message may reach the hearts of those who are ready for it. Oh boy. It is very important that there should be a plain understanding of my teachings on some of the subjects which are causing so much misunderstanding among my followers in other societies, so that you can put things in a plain and definite way which will carry conviction and will help. We hope to bridge the chasm of separation and bring us all closer together as one family sitting at the table of our Father. You will have difficulty in making certain ones comprehend owing to their fixed idea that only explanations given them by their so-called authorities can be accepted. But I want this, my explanation, written out so that those to whom it is shown can accept it or not, then at least we have done our part in presenting the truth. At the time when she was known as Helena Petrovna Blavatsky was on earth, although she had many faults and many misconceptions, she was nevertheless chosen for the great work of preparing the Western world for the coming of the great teacher, the Avatar. She was never worthy in her own eyes, except in the sense that she was willing to take up the burden and would not lie it down until the work was accomplished. The chief work that she gave to the world, the secret doctrine, was made up largely from ancient teachings, the fundamental principles of the wisdom religion. These were gathered from the ancient teachings because they were most accessible and because they express most convincingly the essential principles of that religion. So many a self-interpolated dictum, which may a hammer and tongs, she did the best she could. And what has the result been? With great suffering and many mistakes, the Theosophical Society was founded. And finally, the time came for her to lay down the outer part of her physical work. But did she lay it down altogether? No, that was impossible. Because when one is chosen and given a definite work to do for the masters in a definite cycle, that work must come under the great law. And one is never chosen and then the work pushed on them. But the choice always results because in the past incarnations, he himself has asked for the opportunity and has tried to prepare himself. He's literally said, "Here am I, use me." She was chosen as a messenger of the lodge because she had that karmic right and had sought to prepare herself for that work. It is well to understand clearly that I mean by a messenger of the lodge has messengers of greater or lesser degrees, but all messengers must be in conscious touch with the lodge and be willing to lay down their own personalities, their own lives, to do the master's work. It must be those whose karma permits this. And yet, at certain eras in the world's history, when we might say the world is approaching a great event, such as the descent of the Avatar, there's always some special messenger sent out who has the characteristics, force, and power to hew the way like John the Baptist, to make straight his path to prepare for his coming. This preparation for the coming of the great teacher cannot be accomplished merely by gathering together a few followers to study the philosophy of ancient teachings. They had been studied for ages. How hopeless such a task. You know how even during her lifetime, she had few friends. Her true friends could count on one finger of her hand or on both the best. She had no one who was really close, who really understood her or comprehended her real mission. She was either regarded as a mountebank and a doer of wonders, hence sought out for pastime and entertainment, or a half-crazed enthusiast who was trying to make a stir in the world by putting forth bizarre doctrines, which would upset the placid faith of easygoing Christianity, which had only just settled down into a comfortable jog trot after the strenuous experiences of persecution and intolerance of past ages. People either fawned on her or flattered her and demanded her help, or they derided. And oh, how they crushed and trampled on her highest ideals and belittled her great mission. I know a lot of us, because I go through this with the Hermit's journey, have kind of been in this position. I know I have. I'm going to put a pause here. As I read all these works, I try to connect a lot of things. And even with my spiritual soul advices, I could see the people who are actually, because these are not my ideas, by the way. Like when I channeled, this is from upstairs. And again, everybody comes from different source rays of light in different paradigms. So I'm not expecting everybody to follow what I'm saying. But what I am putting out there is advice that is not just mine. I'm just a mouthpiece. And she was also a mouthpiece. I know that I'm a way shower, that I'm a messenger. I have that awareness. I've had it since I was a little kid. And still to this day, I'm not taken too seriously. I'm not believed. I'm not given credit. I don't want to sit on a podium in front of people to channel. That's just not what I am here for in the moment, in the now moment. That's not what I'm doing. I have flies once again. She's very much into that. Everybody's going to look down upon her and she's crazy. And what the hell is that concept? And why is she speaking such things? That's why I'm reading her book. Even if you don't align with all or even any of what she's saying, some of the stuff is actually relevant in the time that she wrote it in. Holy moly. Crazy. At last there came a time, as there always does, when the Great One said, quote, "Dear child, you have worked long enough under this terrible handicap of disbelief, of bickering, of criticism. Now you can come and continue your work where it will be easier, where you can stand aside, can look at the teachings you have given out, and at the source from whence you gather them, and can understand more fully what is still necessary for the coming age," end quote. So Madame Blavatsky, according to the world's opinion, died, and according to the ideals of the Theosophical Society, was transplanted into a higher sphere of activity where she could still be capable of carrying on her work. According to the very teachings which had been so carefully gathered and calculated in the little group which at the time called itself the Theosophical Society, it had been pointed out that when a teacher has accepted the great responsibility of preparing for the coming of an avatar, such a teacher never goes into the vacuum or accepts nirvanic bliss, that always, if he is worthy of the name of agent, he makes the great sacrifice and remains in the earth's aura and in close touch with his followers to teach and help them and to watch over the seed he has planted and help it to continue its growth. This teaching is scattered all through her writings. When the cry back to Blavatsky, why do they not go back to her fundamental teachings on the subject as well as others? There never has been a great teacher or a messenger who, after he put away the hampering body of flesh, does not remain close to his pupils, who does not continue his work, does not come and appear to speak with his followers. To say that Madame Blavatsky died and then disappeared and left her work, left it in the chaotic and undeveloped and unfulfilled condition you all know it was in and is still today, is simply to deny her the one little recognition of her work that at least her followers should be glad to give her, namely, that she was an authorized agent and messenger of the lodge. For, as I have said, if she laid down her work at death, she broke the law. And if she had not been a messenger, she would have been reputed long before her death. This doctrine of the self-sacrifice of one who voluntarily gives up the absolute nirvana in order to help humanity and still doing it good to save his fellow creatures by guiding them, has been plainly given to the Theosophical Society and the Masters of Wisdom, be they of higher or lower degree, far advanced or only a few steps on the path of mastery, all obey this law. Therefore, being an agent of the lodge and adept on his trials, she also could be expected to obey this law. It is conceivable that the great masters of wisdom and compassion, who knew that the whole earth was about to pass its great baptism of horror and of blood and of dissolution, who knew that the days foretold from the beginning of time were about to be entered upon, who knew that this poor little earth was about to pass through the most terrible time of testing. It is conceivable that the great souls would say, yes, we know that the world is about to reach its darkest night. We know that war and fire and sword and famine, pestilence, desolation, and horror are stalking abroad. But we will now withdraw our message and let no one from the lodge interfere to help or comfort or guide. Let the poor suffering little children fight it out alone with what we have already given them. We will do no more to help. There will be no one sent from the lodge until 1975, when it is all over. Wow. We will remain away in hiding in some safe retreat where we cannot be hurt while they die and starve and suffer and sink down into a hopeless hell and the horrors they must face. I say, is this conceivable? Is there a person living, especially one who calls himself a theosophist, who can so belittle and falsely the teachings and condemn the great loving masters, who, as they have been taught, are the guardian wall around humanity, who are the givers of compassion and love and the watchers through the night, the great lovers of mankind? Yet apparently this is the result of Madame Blavatsky's teachings. Oh, if such a horrible doctrine were true, I myself would gather the people of the earth together and I would say, fine, these so-called masters of wisdom, and tear them limb from limb and throw them into the dogs. Find the God of theirs in his highest heaven and tear him down and say to this God, how dare you make man, and then leave him helpless and without comfort to suffer and die under such terrible conditions. How dare you? Sorry, someone's how dare you popped into the back of my mind. Yet this is what my followers today are saying that Madame Blavatsky taught. Ah, my children, it is unthinkable. It is monstrous. It is villainous. It is horrible. On the contrary, according to the great law, when a messenger of the lodge is given a work to do upon the earth plane, and owing to his karma, his disposition, his racial characteristics, and to 1,000 other factors, he fails to a certain extent to carry out the mission as well as he should. And yet his heart is true, and he wants to do better. He is taken up into a higher realm, yet not far from earth, and there is given an opportunity to do better, to see more clearly, to work harder, to correct mistakes, and to make the great renunciation of nirvanic bliss, to remain as the guardian and guide of his followers. He will not lay down his advanced state to karmic incarnate again as a babe, and thus waste the most precious years of a cycle while waiting to grow up to an age at which he could resume his work. Interesting. Again, they say that granting that all this is so, why could not someone in the great and loving and brotherly Theosophical Society be chosen to carry on her work? Oh, they are doing it beautifully, are they not? But I tell you now that there is absolutely no one among all the TS members in the world whom, if he had and will come to me and listen to me and obey me, I will not teach and help inspire, who, if he will let go his own preconceived ideas of what Theosophia is, I will not guide and enlighten, but they will not. They will not realize that when on earth, Madame Blavatsky gave out but the outer body of the mystic teachings of Theosophy, the shell, let us say. But now, like all teachers, when she has entered into her real work upon a higher plane, she has to take that outer shell and build into it its soul. The mystic teachings of the heart doctrine, the love, the understanding, the sympathy, and the personal touch, because today that is what the world needs. In those early terrible days of the materialism, the world needed hammer blows, needed to be shown that real religion, the wisdom religion, was scattered through all religions, needed to be shown that even those religions, which they called heathen, contain the mighty spiritual truths needed to guide the life. This was accomplished, but after she had passed out, the world had changed. It was no longer merely materialism we had to fight. The world was seeking and crying out for truth, for love, for understanding, for brotherhood. Therefore, as the dark night came upon the world, it had to have the inner side of the teachings, especially the inner side of the Christian teachings, explained to it. But where could I find anyone with mind open enough and who was karmically prepared to give these except the simple ones I chose? Therefore, I say, let all those who consider themselves true theosophists turn aside from worshiping the outer shell of the teachings and seek the heart. Let them say, yes, all that former teaching was necessary and fundamental and is good, but can it alone really help us in these days of misery and unrest? Can philosophy alone really feed our souls? Yet we know that in theosophy, real theosophy, there is this bread of life, but who shall break it and give it to us? Where are the disciples who can take the 5 loaves and the 2 small fishes and give them to the multitude? When they have said this, let them take the mystic teachings I have more recently inspired and see it that they cannot find in them the real inner nourishing food of true theosophy, not the exact interpretation, perhaps, not the talk, not the controversy, not the arguments, but the spirit of truth, the help and the understanding of humanity, which needs different treatment today than it needed when Madame Blavatsky was on earth in the flesh. I'm going to put a pause here. I did a TikTok today, and I'm being reminded, the law of one, there are edited things that never made the book. And Ra basically was saying, when asked by LL Research, like, why wasn't this stuff in there? It's because there are things that the outside world, the people in the world, that focus so intently on that they're not focusing on within. They're not focusing on brotherhood. They're not focusing on humanity as much as it sounds and seems like it is. It inherently really isn't, because the ideas are feeding the negative agenda. When you go within and you rise your frequency, you're aiding Gaia. When you go within and you're learning how to actually unconditional love and spread it in the outside world to all brothers and sisters out there, that is actually doing the work. That is actually transmuting the negative to the light, to the love. And we are in different times. Now, if you were to minus the time continuum that's going on in this book and apply the dark night of the soul to our time now, in the now, this makes a lot of sense. We've always been preached to, and it doesn't matter what religion, it doesn't matter what society, lodge, master, guru has come down to inspire and to lead people. the true leading is in self. The true leading is to do the work on self. Once you can establish yourself in a world that is super dark, you are the freaking lighthouse. You, me, and all the people that are aware of this fact are the ones of the way showers. We're showing the way. There are very many of us who are out there trying to put videos out and trying to, hi, you know, I might not be your cup of tea, but the person, you know, on the next video might be, which is great. I don't want to be the only one. There were people that were forefronted back in that time. It is the multitude now. It's up to us to hold the reins, to say, yeah, all this stuff is going on in the outside, but if it's a distraction, it's distortion. Go with that. Little hint. Not until the work of the teacher is accomplished will she take her rest, and it will never be accomplished until the inner mystic spirit and her teachings have been given out. And when I say the inner mystic spirit, I mean the things which touch the heart, which grip the understanding, which help men and women to live in spite of the hard times, to stand up and face themselves and the world in spite of all the things they have passing through today, rather than mere metaphysical speculations and disrupting, hair-splitting disruptions over doctoral points. Her work will never be accomplished until it has brought out the true religion within the framework of the philosophy or outer body of the theosophical doctrine, until it has shown the great spiritual power, not only in the ancient religions, but also that same identical spiritual power and those same truths in the Christian religion. In the days when Madame Blavatsky was on Earth, the Western world believed in what was called Christian religion, but could not believe that one could be anything but a heathen who could see truth in any other religion. It was the work of theosophy at that time to bring truth of other religions to the attention of the Christian world. Pause. And this is very true. She doesn't just speak on the Vedics, which is a big proponent of her work, but she also goes on with the Norse and I think South America as well. She mentions quite often almost all other religions she has tackled. Sorry, guys, my body is not behaving today. So she does bring up other, just not the Indian Vedic Manvarata, even though that's the basis of a lot of her work. She does throw in other dynamics in her work. If you would humor my horrible names and wording in The Secret Doctrine, I just finished book 1. It is a long series. We just started book 2. And in this work has been so well accomplished that as a result today, it is a common thing for people to go to the Hindus and the philosophers of other ancient peoples and pick out their wonderful pearls of great price. Many of such persons say that Christianity is a failure, but there is nothing in it. Therefore, Madame Blavatsky has not finished her work until she brings the same understanding of the Christian mysteries to the public mind that she brought to it of the other religions, until she strings the pearls of the Christian religion upon the same thread of truth and makes a recognition of all reach around the world and touch the hearts of all. Pause again, sorry. There is zero religion that has it in absolute right. Zero, doesn't matter what religion you come from, what you've read, there is a lot of 1984 in all books, not just the three pillars of Christianity, Judaism, and Hinduism. Mohammedanism, Islam. Even Hinduism and others, there is a lot of inversions in there, snuck in, reworded. Once again, who wrote the Bible? It sure wasn't Jesus. Jesus didn't say to read the Bible because it wasn't even made in his time. It was made after. So do we really know who transcribed properly what was actually said? And in the religions that, in the languages that it was spoken in, back in that archaic time, are we getting the real actual deliverance of words properly? One can argue that point in all religions. There was archaic religion and archaic language. And when people scribed, did they get it down literally, or was it an interpretation? Big word right there, interpretation. Was it an interpretation of, or like telephone and their spin on things? Most of us can remember where we were at those points in times, but many of us still can't, and that's a vast majority of people, to know what is actually true or not. And to this point with Ra, does it really matter at this point? If we see the world and how it's constructed today, if one were to follow the books by its exact wording, then there should not be any of this nonsense on the outside of our world, because we would all be better human beings for it. Do not kill thy neighbor. Well, why is everybody getting killed? Why is all of this happening? If everybody followed a faith, the majority of faiths are not killing people, and they're being hospitable and being forthright and honest. We don't see what's going on in our outside world. So how did this all happen? Just something to think about. And again, I'm not here to criticize anybody's religion or doctrines. I'm just saying facts. Who wrote your works? Think about who wrote them and who transcribed them, because a lot of those people back then did not know how to write or read. And it was up to the scribes to translate and interpret what was being said. And it's like a hearsay telephone game in some instances. So you see that her work today is just as continued of a different part of the same work. You cannot expect a person, even on the physical plane, to go on day after day, year after year, repeating the same thing. If he has a philosophy, he must emphasize those aspects which will meet the needs of the day, for it is not a philosophy if it cannot fit all times and all conditions of life. If you send a child to school and he is taught the multiplication table and learns it perfectly, and then learns something else, and finally our profession, would you say this cannot be the same child, for the knowledge is not what he was taught in the grammar school, and he is now quite different? Do you not see theosophists today who use no more common sense than this? When the cycle of my work is closed, when this 1975 they talk much about comes, then there will be a new agent, a messenger from the lodge. Who will this new messenger be? Ah, my child, that must leave. It will be one whose understanding is opened, one who has wisdom, who has love and sympathy, who can touch the hearts and unfold the heart doctrine. His work will be a different work from mine. but a continuation of it. But in the meantime, you can all help to spread the real theosophy, both the book structure and the heart. You can thus help to redeem the work that is attributed to Madame Blavatsky when on earth can be setting it right by making people understand that while she was a human being full of faults and failings, yet she was a chosen messenger of the lodge. She was also an immortal spirit and divinely appointed teacher whose work is not taken from her because she laid down the human body of flesh, for she is still working and will still work and never lay down her work until she has not merely one agent on earth, but many who will catch the rhythm of the true teachings and will give but theosophy from the heart side. Why has the society failed to touch the lives and hearts of its followers as it should? Because they cut out its heart and now are trying through magic to hold the atoms of the outer body together like all corpses, in spite of the mummy wrappings, the ritual and spirit, and the mystic powers. The little atoms are gradually separating and seeking to live their lives in peace and harmony elsewhere. Everything that is good in the old society, and there is much good, will be utilized, but there are still some devoted servants of the lodge who are nevertheless so ignorant, so blind, so deaf, that they can look only backward, never forward. They see only that which was, never what is now, let alone what shall be. All that is good will manifest. Every teaching will come back renewed. What is heart in it? There is nothing that is hid that shall not be revealed, nothing buried that shall not be resurrected. This is all I care to tell you. You can proclaim it all your discretion, and let who will believe you. Let those who are blind be blind still, as the Bible tells us, and he that is deaf and lame and halt, let him be so still. For the kingdom of heaven cometh like a thief in the night. Did you ever stop to realize what this means? The night that the scripture was alking about was the night of the world that we are passing through today, this great night of darkness and suffering and ignorance. Yet through the night, the footsteps of the angel messengers of the new day can be heard. They are coming quietly, yet steadily and persistently. They come like a thief in the night because they are stealing from the old forms their life, that which was thought to be their exclusive foundation. And as they come to humanity, they must steal away from the old forms their life, their force, and their supremacy. And the result at first is more in harmony. Yet it is but like a mighty wind that is stirring up the dead leaves. Soon, so soon, will come the great gardener, like a fire, and burn up the chaff. The fire will be the fire of the law, the fire of conviction, the fire of might and power. It will not be perhaps an outer fire, although that too may manifest because the outer fire destroys, but the purifying inner fire, the fire of the heart, of the life, of the words, that is the fire that burns forever and ever, that destroys ultimately all chaff and prepares the soil for new growth. This is all I have for you tonight. My great love, I bid you adieu. And that ends that section. Her work is incredible. I find it, she brings in a lot of arguments and a lot of scientists and claims and things of that nature in her work. But if you look at a lot of people now, there are messengers here, there are angels here. I'm not alone. Once again, I know my purpose. I know some of my purpose here and some of my missions here, and I know many of you have an inkling or know it. we're trying to walk in it. It's difficult with the suppression happening. It's difficult when people are still on the old paradigm that need to know the truth from the past, yet they're not really thinking about moving forward. We are at the point of a brink of a new cycle. And as much as we can learn from the old, where the way shower is going into the future, because we're here, it's simultaneously happening now. And for those of you who are doing the work on yourself and are spreading the messages, and you yourselves are doing the same, thank you. We're a collective. The more of us that come together, the more of us that work together, the more of us who spread the words of wisdom. And it's coming not just from one source, it's coming from a multitude of people that are saying very similar things, different wording, maybe different vibratory states. Why some people can tolerate some and not others, it's okay. As long as the word is getting out there and you can see people making a change, that's what's needed. We can only get it out. It's up to everybody else to do the work. I had to do the work. I'm still doing the work. I know many of you are still doing the work too. We got to press forward. I would love to see more and more people join on the new frontier of getting this frequency and all these things going off with smoothly and without issue. It's kind of hard when everybody's feeding the evil ones. And yeah, it's not a part of my paradigm really anymore. I don't let it become my paradigm. I don't focus on these negative agendas and narratives anymore. Because I mean, honestly, and what side is paying my bills? No one. And what side is opportunities being given to people? You got to create your reality. So I'm trying to create my best reality. And I'm glad that all of you are accompanying me on that journey. Who knows who's tapping into Blavatsky, but hopefully she is continuing her work and hopefully one of her fractals is here continuing on her linkings and going in the heart space, and hopefully a new doctor informs. Who knows? So guys, sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, protection, and shielding energy. Please go within. Be the shoulder for somebody to lean on. There's a lot of confusion out there. There's a lot of very harsh energy out there. I've been heavily affected by it 10 times what I'm used to. A lot of things are like I thought I healed are surfacing back up. They're kind of healed and I just need to release now. They're layered. Please be a shoulder. And if you feel you're never alone, so always call upstairs, always to your higher self and higher guidance. Take the time to commune with nature. Be the lighthouse, because if you're not going out there and shedding your light frequency, you never know who in your soul tribe you're going to meet or the impact you're going to have on another person by your words and your wisdom. Don't hide yourselves. And seed your truths. We're growing a garden, and together we are the warriors of that garden. I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your week. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a video out tomorrow. I might be journeying with my chica, Dina, to help someone out. So not sure if I'll get a video. but hopefully on Wednesday. So guys, love you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.